Well, in the increasingly bitter standoff along Belarus's border with Poland, the EU says it won't be intimidated by threats from Belarus, that it is ready to call on military help from Russia. The EU accuses authoritarian Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko of intentionally creating the crisis by encouraging migrants and refugees to arrive by plane from the Middle East and travel to the border to attempt to enter the EU. Thousands of people are stranded there in freezing conditions. Poland has set up an exclusion zone and deployed thousands of troops to stop them crossing into its territory. The EU has welcomed a decision, meanwhile, by Turkey to stop citizens of 3 Middle Eastern countries from flying to Belarus. Brussels is planning new sanctions against the regime in Minsk, but conditions are rapidly worsening for the migrants who have already arrived.
On Poland's eastern border, drones equipped with infrared cameras fly over the forest, searching for small groups of people that have managed to enter European Union territory. Border guards on horseback patrol on the ground. Thousands of Polish soldiers and police have been stationed along the border to Belarus. A build-up of security forces behind a barbed wire fence. On the other side, a group of around 2,000 men, women and children are camped out, trapped in a political standoff with only flimsy tents to shelter from the freezing cold. The EU accuses the Belarusian regime of luring them to the border, with the aim of stoking divisions within the bloc. After an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council on Thursday, the US and several European nations issued a strongly worded statement.
We call on the Belarusian authorities to stop these inhumane actions and not to put people's lives at risk. The Belarusian authorities should understand that putting pressure on the European Union in this way, through a cynical instrumentalization of migrants, will not succeed.
Russia's a close ally of the Belarusian regime. It hit back at the suggestion it's colluding with Minsk to manufacture a border crisis.
My personal opinion is that it is very shameful for our European friends to raise issues like this, because they expose their double standards and their absolutely wrong politic towards this crisis. But it's up to them, of course. I don't know whether they are masochists or not, I don't know.
Most of those stranded arrived in Belarus by plane from the Middle East before travelling to the border. Now, Turkey has announced it will no longer allow citizens of Iraq, Yemen and Syria to buy plane tickets to reach Belarus from Turkish airports. For the EU, it's a welcome breakthrough, as it seeks to prevent scenes like this on its external borders.
Well, our correspondent Jet Parik is just outside the town of Hinówka on the Polish side of the border. He's in the woods where some migrants and refugees are still trying to hide. Jack, what's the situation on the border where you are now?
Hi there. Well, we are just about as close as we can possibly get to the exclusion zone, this 3-kilometre zone up the Poland-Belarus border. I don't know if you can see the flashing light behind me. That's a police car. That is the checkpoint where you have to be authorised to enter the zone. Now, what we've heard today, there was a press conference about 50 kilometres north from here, actually, of activists that are part of a whole group of activists all the way up and down the border. And they announced that there have been 2 more deaths in the forest in the last couple of days. One of them believed to be a minor, 14 years old. So the situation is getting even worse here. By our count, that would be approximately at least 12 people that have died since this crisis began a few months ago. Now, from our perspective, we went to one of the places just on the outside of the exclusion zone where we understood that people that do make it through are picked up by smuggling rings and then taken on elsewhere, most of them aiming to get to Germany. And we found some remnants of some people that had obviously been there. We don't know when they had been there. But interestingly, we found one boarding pass for an airline that was for a flight that had flown from Erbil in Iraqi Kurdistan into Dubai. That obviously now is on the border with, that boarding pass is here on the border between Poland and Belarus. We also found used nappies of obviously small children as well. This situation is extremely difficult to report on because, as we say, this is as close as we can get to that exclusion zone. But we know that the situation is getting much worse. And as I say, there are reports of further deaths. Yeah, what you found corroborates some of what we've heard already. You've also heard the stories of several migrants, I believe, who have made it across into Poland. What have their experiences been like? Everyone that we have spoken to, I've especially been texting with people. I started reporting on this story about a month ago. The situation within this forest is extremely difficult. They are being forced at times to drink from puddles on the ground. They have very limited access to food. The activists that brave themselves to go into the forest to try and help these people tell us stories of really, really difficult humanitarian situations, physical health crises of the people that are coming through. Once they get through, as I say, if they are managed to do so, they are often able to move elsewhere, but it's difficult to follow them. One of the people that we did meet a few weeks ago, I've been texting with him, and he's an Iraqi guy, said that he was actually and had made it to Berlin. So there are a lot of people that are still continuing to get through, but we know, we're being reported from the other side of the border in Belarus, that there are thousands of people still stuck on the other side of the razor wire fence there.
Jack Parrick on the Polish border, thanks for your reporting.